Iran War Day 18. Trump says we don't know if Khamenei is dead or alive. The President of the United States stood before reporters and admitted America has no idea whether the supreme leader of Iran is still breathing. Some say he lost a leg. Some say he is badly disfigured. Some say he's already dead. No images, no video, no proof of life. Just silence from the most powerful man in Iran. Meanwhile, Dubai airport is on fire. Baghdad airport hit by rockets. Australia and Japan refuse to send warships. And the death toll just crossed 2,300. Iran says it has not even used its best weapons yet. So who is really winning this war, and who is lying? Welcome back to WARCAST. This is the channel that cuts through the noise and brings you the war as it actually is, not as anyone wants you to see it. If you're new here, WARCAST delivers daily frontline updates with verified facts, zero political bias, and complete respect for your intelligence. If that is what you have been looking for, hit subscribe. It takes 1 second, and it helps this mission reach millions more. Now, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from right now? This audience stretches across every time zone on Earth, and your presence makes this community stronger every single day. On Monday, March 16th, 2026, the President of the United States stood before reporters and said something that no one expected to hear. He said, "We don't know if he's dead or not." He was talking about Mojtaba Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, the most powerful man in a country of 80 million people. The man who took over from his assassinated father just 10 days ago. The man who declared the Strait of Hormuz closed. The man who ordered continued attacks on Israel and U.S. bases across the Middle East. And the President of the United States admitted he has no idea whether that man is still alive. Trump told reporters that a lot of people are saying Khamenei is badly disfigured. He said some reports claim Khamenei lost a leg. Others say he has been hurt very badly. And some people are saying he is dead. But nobody, according to Trump, is saying he is 100% healthy. Not a single image of Mojtaba Khamenei has been released since the first day of the war. Not a single video, not a single public appearance. The only communication that has come from him was a written statement read out by a television presenter on Iranian state TV days ago. His voice has not been heard. His face has not been seen. For 18 days, the supreme leader of Iran has been a ghost. CNN later reported details from a source familiar with the situation. According to that source, Khamenei suffered a fractured foot on the first day of the bombardment. He received a bruise around his left eye. He had minor lacerations on his face. He is 56 years old. But Iran tells a very different story. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi claimed publicly that Khamenei is in excellent health. He said the supreme leader is in control of the situation and present at his post. He said the timing of any public appearance is Khamenei's own decision. So who is telling the truth? Is the supreme leader injured? Is he hiding? Is he governing from a hospital bed? Or is he no longer alive? Nobody outside Iran's innermost circle knows the answer. And that uncertainty is now shaping the entire war. While the mystery of Khamenei dominated headlines, the war itself continued to rage across the region. In Tehran, thick black plumes of smoke rose over the capital early Monday morning. Iranian state media reported massive explosions. The Israeli military confirmed it had launched a fresh wave of strikes targeting infrastructure in the city. The Iranian Red Crescent said the latest raids damaged one of its clinics and an aid relief post. Even humanitarian facilities are no longer safe. In Dubai, the war arrived at the doorstep of the world's busiest international airport. A drone-related incident caused a fire that hit a fuel tank near Dubai International Airport. Flights were immediately suspended, Emirates grounded its planes, passengers were evacuated from terminals. The airport later resumed limited operations, but the damage to Dubai's reputation as a safe global hub was already done. In Baghdad, several rockets hit in and around Baghdad International Airport. 5 people were wounded. The strikes targeted a facility used by the U.S. Embassy. Iraq, a country already scarred by decades of conflict, is being pulled deeper into this war by the hour. In Saudi Arabia, the military intercepted 37 drones in the eastern region in a single day. 37 in one day. That number alone tells you the scale of what Gulf countries are facing every 24 hours. Trump responded to all of this by accusing Iran of being a master of media manipulation. He said Iran is using artificial intelligence to spread disinformation about the war. He called Iran militarily ineffective and weak. He said the U.S. had decimated Iran's manufacturing capability and that Iran has very little firepower left. But on the same day, the IRGC spokesperson said something that directly contradicted Trump's claims. He said most of Iran's weapons cache remains intact. He said the missiles being used are from a decade ago. And he said Iran has not yet fired the newer missiles produced since the 12-day war with Israel last year. The death toll has now crossed 2,300. And the leader of Iran may or may not be alive to see it. Day 18. A missing leader, a burning airport, and a war that keeps asking questions nobody can answer. On Monday afternoon, Donald Trump stood at a podium in Washington, D.C. and said something remarkable about the countries America has protected for decades. He said, "The level of enthusiasm matters to me." He was talking about his allies, the nations he had publicly asked to send warships to the Strait of Hormuz, the nations he expected would stand beside the United States in the most critical shipping crisis in modern history. And one by one, they said no. Australia said it is not planning to send ships. Japan said the same. Germany went even further. It said it does not see a role for NATO in the strait. The United Kingdom said it was working with allies to reopen the waterway, but provided no details and made no military commitment. Trump was furious. He said some countries where America has 45,000 soldiers protecting them were not enthusiastic about helping. He warned that NATO faces a very bad future if allies continue to refuse. He later claimed that numerous countries had privately told him they are on the way, but he did not name a single one. Not one country on earth has publicly committed to sending warships to the Strait of Hormuz. That is an extraordinary situation. The most powerful military on the planet is asking for help, and the world is looking the other way. Iran watched all of this very carefully, and its response was calculated. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Esmail Bagay said on Monday that the Strait of Hormuz is not closed, but he said ship traffic is now under the control of Iran's armed forces. Foreign Minister Araghchi was more specific. He said the strait is open, but closed to enemies, closed to those who carried out what he called cowardly aggression against Iran, and closed to their allies. In other words, Iran is deciding who sails through and who does not. Friendly nations may pass, hostile nations will be stopped. And to prove the point, a Pakistani oil tanker called the Karachi successfully transited the strait on Sunday. It hugged the Iranian coastline, loaded crude in the Persian Gulf, and is expected to arrive in Pakistan on March 18th. One ship made it through, because Pakistan is not America's military ally in this conflict. That single tanker proves that Iran's strategy is not about blocking all oil. It is about controlling who gets oil and who does not. It is about leverage. And right now, Iran has more leverage over global energy than at any point in its history. The economic pressure is becoming impossible to ignore. The chief executives of ExxonMobil, Chevron, and ConocoPhillips, the three most powerful oil company leaders in America, personally warned the Trump administration that the disruption at the Strait of Hormuz is likely to worsen the global energy crisis. These are not politicians making predictions. These are the men who run the oil industry telling the president, this is going to get worse. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent responded by saying that any steps to address higher oil prices will depend on how long the war lasts. And then he admitted something that should concern every American. He said he does not know how many weeks the conflict will take. The man in charge of the American economy cannot say when this war ends. Oil prices continued their climb. Brent crude reached $105 per barrel. U.S. crude crossed $100. Gas prices in America are now up 70 cents since the war began. The S&P 500 hit a new low for the year. Stocks have fallen for 3 straight weeks. The economic bleeding is accelerating. On the battlefield, the numbers are staggering. According to Al Jazeera, the total death toll across the Middle East has now exceeded 2,300 people. ACLED, an independent conflict monitor, has documented nearly 2,000 distinct military events across at least 29 of Iran's 31 provinces. Tehran has endured the heaviest bombardment. The deadliest single incident was the strike on an elementary girls' school in the city of Minab in southeastern Iran, which killed more than 170 people, most of them schoolgirls. Iran has fired approximately 700 missiles and 3,600 drones since February 28th. The White House claims it has destroyed 90% of Iran's ballistic missile capability and 95% of its drone capability. But the IRGC says that is not true. Its spokesperson said most of their weapons cache remains intact. He said the missiles being used are old, and he said the newest weapons have not been fired yet. Trump dismissed these claims. Speaking aboard Air Force One, he said the U.S. is hitting Iran's drone factories. He said Iran has very little firepower left. He accused Iran of using artificial intelligence as a disinformation weapon. He said Iran was showing fake videos of kamikaze boats attacking ships, and that those boats do not exist. The information war is now running at full speed alongside the real war. Both sides are accusing each other of lying. Both sides are claiming victory. And for ordinary people watching from around the world, figuring out what is actually true has never been harder. Inside Iran, the crackdown on information continues. 18 people were arrested on Monday, accused of working for Iran International, the satellite news channel that Tehran says has ties to Israel. Journalists detained, media workers imprisoned. In a country with no internet, the few remaining sources of independent information are being systematically shut down. And through it all, the supreme leader of Iran remains invisible. No images, no video, no public appearance. The President of the United States says he might be dead. Iran's foreign minister says he is in excellent health. And 80 million Iranians have no way to find out the truth for themselves. Day 18. Allies refuse to help. Oil CEOs sound the alarm. Iran controls the strait. And the man who was supposed to be leading Iran through its darkest hour has not been seen in 18 days. In a quiet office somewhere outside Iran, a prince sat down and began planning the future of a country that still exists. His name is Reza Pahlavi. He is the exiled crown prince of Iran, the son of the last Shah who was overthrown in the 1979 Islamic Revolution. For decades, he has lived in exile, watching from the outside as the Islamic Republic governed the nation his family once ruled. On Monday, while bombs were still falling on Tehran, while the supreme leader was missing, while 80 million people had no internet, Pahlavi announced the creation of a committee to draft regulations for transitional justice in Iran. He said Nobel Peace Prize laureate Shirin Ebadi would lead the body. The committee would prepare the framework for a court and a fact-finding commission to address decades of alleged abuses under the Islamic Republic. It would include Iranian legal experts, activists from different generations, and prominent international jurists. Pahlavi said the initiative was launched for those who, over the past 5 decades, have been victims of injustice, torture, and repression. He said truth will be revealed, justice will be carried out. A prince in exile, building a legal system for a country that has not yet fallen, while its current government fights for survival. That is not just a political development, that is a signal. Someone is betting that the Islamic Republic will not survive this war, and they are already preparing what comes next. Whether that vision becomes reality or remains a dream depends on what happens in the coming weeks. But the mere fact that it is being announced publicly while the war is still raging tells you something about how the world sees Iran's future. Now let us look at the consequences that are already here. The global economy is buckling under the weight of this war. Oil has crossed $105 per barrel. Gas prices in America have jumped 70 cents since February 28th. Diesel is above $4.85. The S&P 500 has hit a new yearly low. Markets have fallen for 3 consecutive weeks. And EU energy ministers held an emergency meeting on Monday, specifically to discuss how to bring costs down. The war has cost the United States $12 billion in just 18 days. That is nearly $890 million per day. And the asymmetry of costs is staggering. Iran produces a Shahed drone for roughly $50,000. Shooting it down with a Patriot interceptor costs $4 million. A THAAD interceptor costs $12 million. Iran is draining American defense budgets with weapons that cost a fraction of what it takes to stop them. For every dollar Iran spends attacking, America spends hundreds defending. The Strait of Hormuz remains the central choke point of this entire crisis. 20% of the world's oil passes through it, and Iran now controls who gets through. Friendly nations like Pakistan can transit. Hostile nations cannot. That gives Tehran an extraordinary tool of economic warfare that no missile or drone could ever match. Trump has been unable to build the coalition he needs to reopen the strait by force. Australia said no, Japan said no, Germany said NATO has no role, Britain made no commitment. The allies Trump expected to rally behind him are keeping their distance, and Iran is watching every refusal, knowing that each one strengthens its position. Inside Iran, the humanitarian crisis deepens by the hour. 6 hospitals have been evacuated. The WHO has verified 18 attacks on healthcare facilities. 8 medical workers have been killed. The toxic pollution from damaged oil facilities is increasing respiratory illnesses across multiple provinces. The internet blackout has now lasted over 16 days. Security forces are searching phones at checkpoints. 18 journalists have been arrested. Anti-government slogans have been heard in Tehran neighborhoods, even under total surveillance. And at the center of it all, a missing leader. Mojtaba Khamenei has not been seen publicly since the first day of the war. CNN reported he has a fractured foot, a bruised eye, and facial lacerations. Trump says he may have lost a leg. Some reports say he is dead. Iran says he is in excellent health. Nobody can verify any of these claims because Iran has no functioning internet, no independent media, and no transparency. The absence of a visible leader creates a power vacuum that affects everything. Military decisions, diplomatic negotiations, public morale, international credibility. When the world does not know if the leader of a nation is alive, it cannot negotiate with that nation. It cannot trust its statements. It cannot predict its actions. Everything becomes uncertain. And in war, uncertainty is the most dangerous thing of all. Iran's top security official Ali Larijani wrote a letter on Monday accusing Muslim-majority countries of abandoning Iran. He singled out the UAE for calling Tehran an enemy. He urged Islamic nations to reflect on the future. He said, "America is loyal to no one, and Israel is an enemy to all of them." It was a plea for solidarity from a country that is being bombed, blockaded, and abandoned by the very nations it expected to stand with it. But those nations see things differently. Saudi Arabia is intercepting 37 drones per day. The UAE has had its airport shut down. Qatar has been evacuating neighborhoods. Kuwait has lost civilians. These countries did not ask to be attacked, and Iran's decision to strike them has made the isolation of Tehran almost complete. A prince plans a new country from exile. Oil CEOs warn the president. Allies refuse to send ships. Hospitals are evacuated. Journalists are arrested. And the supreme leader is nowhere to be found. Day 18 has revealed something that no bomb or missile could. This war is not just destroying buildings and infrastructure, it is destroying the certainty of who is in charge and what the future holds. There is a question that has never been asked about any war in modern history. Is the leader of the country being bombed? Even alive? That is the question the world is asking about Iran on day 18. And nobody, not the President of the United States, not the CIA, not the Pentagon, not a single intelligence agency on Earth, can answer it with certainty. Donald Trump stood before cameras and said it plainly. We don't know if he's dead or not. Some people say he lost a leg. Some say he is badly disfigured. Some say he is dead. Nobody says he is 100% healthy. Iran's foreign minister says Khamenei is in excellent health, but he has not been seen, not once. In 18 days, no photo, no video, no voice recording, nothing. And that mystery is now shaping everything that happens next. The first development to watch is Thursday. Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi is scheduled to visit the White House. Trump is expected to ask Japan directly to contribute warships to a coalition for the Strait of Hormuz. Japan has already said it is not planning to send ships, but Japan depends on Gulf oil more than almost any country on Earth. A face-to-face request from the American president in the Oval Office is much harder to refuse than a social media post. If Japan says yes, it could change the entire dynamic. If Japan says no again, Trump's coalition may be dead before it starts. The second development is Karg Island. The decision to strike Iran's oil infrastructure remains on the table. Trump has not ruled it out. His UN ambassador confirmed it publicly. If that order is given, 90% of Iran's crude exports disappear overnight. Iran has already warned that such an attack would trigger retaliation against every American-linked energy facility in the Gulf. Saudi Aramco, ADNOC in Abu Dhabi, Qatar Energy. Everything would be at risk. The oil CEOs have already warned the White House that the crisis is worsening. Striking Karg Island would push the world into an energy catastrophe that could take years to recover from. The third development is Khamenei himself. If the supreme leader is alive, Iran needs to prove it. The longer he remains invisible, the weaker Iran's position becomes. Allies doubt Tehran's leadership. Enemies sense vulnerability, and ordinary Iranians are left wondering whether the person ordering them to fight is even capable of standing up. If he is dead, the consequences are even more dramatic. Iran would face a second leadership crisis in less than 3 weeks. The IRGC would likely seize full control. Diplomatic channels would collapse, and the already slim chances of a negotiated end to this war would vanish entirely. The fourth development is the information war. Trump accused Iran of using artificial intelligence to create fake videos and false claims about the war. Iran accused the U.S. of using clone drones to attack Gulf countries and blamed Tehran. The FCC chairman threatened to revoke broadcasting licenses from outlets he accused of pushing fake news about the war. Both sides are now actively trying to control what the world sees, hears, and believes. In this environment, the truth is the first casualty. And the only weapon ordinary people have against disinformation is critical thinking. Now here are the questions for you. Do you believe Mojtaba Khamenei is alive? If he is dead, what happens to Iran's war effort? Should Japan and other countries send warships to the Strait of Hormuz, or would that escalate the conflict further? Is Iran truly holding back its most powerful weapons? Or is that a bluff? And when both sides accuse each other of spreading fake news, how do you decide what is real? These questions do not have easy answers, but asking them is the most important thing any of us can do right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments, whether you're watching from Dubai or Dallas, from Islamabad or Istanbul, from Tokyo or Tunis, from Nairobi or New York. Your voice is part of this global conversation. And in a war where information itself is a weapon, your ability to think critically is more valuable than any missile. To stay informed, here is what is recommended. Follow verified news sources. Al Jazeera, CNN, BBC, NPR, Reuters, Bloomberg, CNBC, and the Associated Press are providing around-the-clock coverage. Cross-check everything. If one source says something shocking, look for at least 2 more sources confirming it before you believe it. Be especially careful with videos and images on social media. In a war where both sides are accusing each other of using AI to create fake content, nothing should be trusted at face value. And if you have loved ones in any affected country, reach out to them. Check on them. A message or a call can mean everything during times like these. And finally, One last thought. Somewhere in Iran right now, behind walls that no camera can see, a man named Mojtaba Khamenei either sits in a room making decisions that affect millions of lives, or he does not. Nobody knows. His people cannot see him. His enemies cannot find him. His allies cannot confirm he is breathing. The most powerful intelligence agencies on Earth cannot say with certainty whether he exists in the present tense. And yet, this war continues in his name. Missiles are launched in his name. Drones are fired in his name. The Strait of Hormuz is closed in his name. Soldiers fight and civilians die, in the name of a man who may or may not be alive. That is perhaps the most haunting detail of this entire conflict. A war being fought for a leader who has become invisible, a nation being led by a voice that no one has heard, a people being told to sacrifice by someone they cannot see. 2,300 people are dead, 18 days have passed, and the world still cannot answer the simplest question of all. Is he alive? This has been WARCAST. Thank you for watching. Thank you for thinking. And thank you for demanding the truth in a world that is trying very hard to hide it. Stay informed. Stay sharp. Stay human. We will be right here every single day until the truth reveals itself.